Well, hi everybody and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist and internationally published author, helping take you, your life, your business, your body, your health, your mindset from where you are right now to becoming unstoppable. And today we're going to talk about a really important question. Will the world ever be the same again after COVID? Are we forever going to be changed? You can already see, even though we've got a long way to go in this pandemic, we had our lowest numbers in 4 months, I think, come out today, which means we're on track to be opening up again part of our business by the end of this month, and then by the end of October, hopefully open a little bit more. But not everybody is happy with that. I can just see some footage from the news on the TV right now at the time of recording this, and there's police with horses and lots of police arresting people, carrying people around because they're protesting over Melbourne's tough lockdown. And wow, there's police everywhere here. That's crazy. And today, I think it was that the UK reported their largest number of infections since the pandemic began. So obviously there's some big issues there. Israel, huge issues over there. Spain, I think, is out of control again. India, I think there's some big problems over there as well. France, all of Europe, and the Middle East are having big problems, not to mention, of course, the US. I don't have a clear picture of there. It's not something that's being reported in the Australian news here, so maybe their numbers are a little bit less than they have been. But let's think about it for a second. So what's happening around the globe, and we see this here in my hometown here, we've got something like 1 million people that commute each day into the city, and that's the Melbourne CBD. And there's big high-rise skyscrapers where office buildings are and all that kind of stuff. Now, the streets of Melbourne are pretty much empty. Now, the only people that are really in the city are those that are essential workers and those that live in the city. So what is it going to mean for these massive high-rise buildings that are owned by these big corporations where people have been working from home now for 6 months? So clearly they're going to see that this model works effectively, people are being productive, we can save a bomb of money by not having to pay for the upkeep or to occupy all these floors in CBD. And what we can actually do is we can turn this space into residential apartments. I think that's what will end up happening, because you're going to have so much space left in there, and people will forever be changing their corporate models of how to work with their staff. Maybe it will be a case of I think definitely there will be a lot more people working from home, whether it's full-time or whether it's part-time. You're just going to have a lot more people working at home because it suits the employee's lifestyle, and it also provides flexibility, so it's attractive for people coming to work in that entity. And I can see that forever changing. When it comes to handshaking, for instance, do you think we'll ever get back to a handshake? I think the reality is yes, we will, but who knows when that will be? And will some people just for always never shake hands again just because of the risk? Will it have a dramatic impact on the way that people travel? I think absolutely, yes. I think it will probably take at least a couple of years for people to get back into a normal rhythm of let's plan an overseas trip or that European trip, or like in my case, wanting to take the kids to Disneyland for Christmas. It was going to be this year. I'm hoping it can be 2021. But if the rate of infection is still like it is now next year, then we won't go. It's just not worth it for quarantining, if we have to quarantine when we get there, and then quarantining when we get back for 14 days there, 14 days back. I mean, that's a month of quarantine. It's just not worth it. I think people will holiday more domestically for some time when we are able to get back to doing that. But I think I think we've already seen it here in Australia. We call them caravans, like camper vans that you tow behind a car. The caravan sales have just gone through the roof after the first wave because people were realising that, well, they're not going to be able to travel overseas anywhere, so let's get a caravan and we can travel somewhere. Now, the reality is that no one's travelling anywhere right now, but when that part does open up again, I think people will be looking at those cost-effective ways where they can be in control of, where they stay, the cleanliness of where they're staying, etc., etc. So that will certainly help. But yeah, that's a change in consumer spending. Retail outlets. I mean, how many retail outlets just won't open again? And they'll realise that, well, what's the point? Where either we've lost all our money and we're just done and we're going to go do something else, or they've just gone all online, and you have more and more of the bigger entities that take over. So in Australia here we have a big hardware house which is called Bunnings. You've got the big supermarket chains and that kind of stuff. And I mean, they're all thriving in this environment because they've got the capital and the investment behind them, so they can afford to lose a bit of money here and there to make big gains. But they haven't lost anything because they've just been so inundated with overbuying and that kind of stuff because of the panic buying. So it forces some of the smaller players out. Now in that space, there's probably not a lot of competition, but those smaller supermarkets are probably still doing okay as well. But when it comes to other retail shops, so your little gift store and your little travel agent and all that kind of stuff, they're already gone. Like your little sports store, that will probably shut down as well because everything can be gotten online, so people will just be driven that way, and maybe it's coming from China, or maybe it's coming from an overseas site, or just from someone's garage that's got the stock from China, rather than people realising, well, the risk is too great for us to invest in fitting out a shop and having all that risk, and then knowing that we could be back in another situation like COVID, except next time it's called COVID-20 or COVID-21 or whatever you want to term it. It's just something that's a little bit different. So I think that retail will change. More and more people will be going online. I know some of the big department stores. So we've got a big one here in Melbourne, which is called Myer. Oh, it's throughout Australia. Myer, David Jones, they're the two big ones. They've already talked about, closing certain aspects of their stores, and they're in a lot of the big shopping centres and stuff, and some of those will potentially lose floors, and they'll put other shops in those floors because there just isn't the money in people going out and physically walking through these shops anymore. Now, I'm sure there will be a stage where people are like, I just want to get out and I want to look at shops because I'm sick of doing things online. So who knows, maybe it will take an uplift. And people are like, I just want to get out and shop. I just want to get out and touch things and look at things and that sort of stuff. But certainly online sales have gone through the roof. Our delivery service here, which is called Australia Post, has got huge delays in their delivery of stuff because there are so many packages and letters that now need to be delivered. I had one delivered today, which came from overseas and is about a month to 6 weeks ago. I ordered that. So our buying patterns are certainly changing. The jobs that we do also change. People changing career paths and all of those considerations. The way that we school our kids, that could forever change. And maybe now one of the options in the schooling system will be a homeschooling system where you can still, you pay the school and you get teaching and everything, but maybe they've got a camera set up in the school, in the classroom, so that some people attend physically and some stay at home. Maybe that's something that they will do into the future. So just the way that we teach our kids is going to be a little bit different. Socially, What will that mean? I mean, I'm hearing that a lot of kids are really struggling. They just want to go to school, be with their friends and stuff. At these early ages when they're vulnerable, like my two girls are teenagers, the impact of just being able to talk to people through a chat, a forum and that kind of stuff. Are we going to lose that sense of how do we have a proper conversation? Because when you're on a chat, you're talking through emojis and all that kind of stuff, and people are not constructing proper sentences, they're not talking, it's a short talk, and people multitasking, doing 3 or 4 different things at the same time, watching something on their iPad, watching something on Netflix, and playing a game on their phone, or texting on their phone and stuff, and not really engaging. So are we going to have an impact there where we're just not engaged? What will it mean for like intimate type relationships? I don't mean like the physical acts of making love and stuff. I'm talking about will it have an impact on how people form relationships? Like through this whole crisis, will it mean that there are more bust-ups? Are there more divorces? Well, there certainly are, from what I hear. There are more divorces, marriage breakdowns and relationship breakdowns at this time because of that pressure cooker environment that people are under. Will it mean that people are like, I just don't want to be in another relationship because it's just too much pain, and if we get shut down again, there's no way I'm going to go through that again. Will it mean that we have this huge baby boom because people have been at home, there's nothing else to do, they're bored, whatever, so they have sex, create more babies? Maybe. I've heard some younger clients of mine that have been talking about COVID babies. I've heard of the COVID pets, the COVID dogs and stuff, but they're talking about COVID babies. It's like, oh, well, if we get locked down for longer, we've been thinking about having a baby, so we might as well do it now because there's nothing else to do. It's like, my goodness, okay, that's one consideration for having a baby. So there are so many different elements. I could keep talking on and on. And the way that we get, I suppose, satisfaction from our life is really, really different. Will it be forever changed? I don't know the answer to that, but I think certainly many elements of the way we approach life will be very different for years to come. And I mean, I wasn't around at the time of the Second World War and when that finished, but I can only imagine that there would have... I mean, can you imagine living through the First World War and 1919, I'm not sure when the war actually finished, but then going through the Great Depression through, I think it was 1923. I know in 1932 here in Australia, I think it was, 1932 or 1939, we had a horrific weather event and the worst bushfires ever during that time. But then to live through the Great Depression, live through the First World War and the devastation and the Spanish flu and all of that, and then like 20 years later, you go through a Second World War. And it's like, man, really? We just got through the first one 20 years ago. Do we really have to go through this again? And then the Second World War, what goes for 4 years, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it was. And what was it like when that finished? Like, what was the sense of people's relief, obviously, but then I'm sure there was a time where people would think life is never going to be the same again, just because of the atrocities of Nazi Germany regime and the horrific deaths and murders that took place, and the impact that just had on the globe. Now, we lived in a different time then, and the way that news spread, maybe some of those things didn't come out for years, like the truth of it, to hit back in Australia, for instance. But I can only imagine how it impacted people's lives and how long it would take to recover from that. And I have no sense of that, but I can only imagine that it took years, for instance, before people said, yeah, well, I want to travel overseas to Europe. It just would have taken a long time for things to settle down, people to get their livelihoods back, life to settle down, people to perhaps get over the war or live with it in a way that they could live with and function properly. And this is going to be the same for what we're going through now. I'm just grateful that we don't have the horrible violence that we did with the war that we do now. Yeah, it's damn inconvenient, but we don't have to put up with those atrocities that occurred. So I think all of those things that I mentioned, some of those may be true, some of them may not eventuate, and the scale at which each one is impacting us is going to be different depending on where it is that we live. Like right now, we're going through the worst lockdown, the most serious, the harshest restrictions of anywhere in the world. And this is coming out of Victoria in Melbourne, Australia, which we have a population of 5 million or something. It seems crazy. Or was it 3 million? It seems crazy that we're living like this. So the question to ask yourself is, what is all of that going to mean to us? And you might say, well, I don't know until it happens. But isn't it true in life that we never really know what's going to happen exactly, but we can always control what things are going to mean to us? And I think the thing that I'm thinking of is that, well, there's successes, there's challenges, and there's opportunities. And I think with whatever happens, just like COVID right now, you can see where there's all of those things. Many people are devastated right now. But then if you just flip that coin and you look at all the businesses, the industries that are absolutely killing it right now, and you think, wow, it would be nice to be on that side of things for sure. And that's areas like your food distribution network, for instance, anything to do with medical or supply of medical equipment, that small group of businesses, I suppose, that are just doing so well. And then you've got others that are not taking in any income, which is like perhaps it's your high-class restaurants that are just completely shut because they don't want to do any takeaway, or that model just doesn't work because of their location, all of that kind of stuff. And then you look at what's the opportunity. And I see that there's so much opportunity. I'm doing things now that I never would have contemplated before COVID. I just wouldn't have contemplated it. I would have thought that concept is so hard to sell to people, people aren't going to want it. But when you're put into this situation, it makes you realize that, well, actually, there's a real need for this and people will want it. And so I'm doing things now like coaching people. I'm about to do a coaching session in 8 minutes with somebody via Zoom. Things that I doubt that I would have been able to convince people that this would be a great benefit for you. Because people thinking that I need to be present with you, I need to be in the same room, I need to be X, Y, Z with you. But COVID has helped people realize that actually you can get an awesome result when the person's not in the room. And that just opens up a whole other range of products for me and services. So really, really great. So I think there's always that opportunity that you need to be looking for, because there's going to be more opportunity that comes. Sure, there's going to be more challenges because you don't know how long this is going to go, but let's look at what are the opportunities there. And the question is, last question really, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be immobilized and say, I'll just wait for this thing to be over, we'll get back to normal and I can keep doing what I was doing? Well, unless you've got about 3 to 5 years to hang around and wait and see what happens there, I would say you've got to act now. You've got to make sure that you can and pivot, change, look at the opportunities, take them, implement, act fast, repeat. Because if you just wait, then you're going to miss the opportunity. You're going to be too late. You're going to be left behind. Because, for instance, if you're a retail shop and you say, well, I'll just wait for it to be over and then I can open again. Well, that's one approach. But how much longer are you going to have to wait before that can happen? How much are you already losing because whatever you're selling is being sold online. And now, because people are so used to it, like in my country here, it's 6 months. 6 months we've been like this. So people have been forced to find new ways to get what they want, because people are quite resourceful. If they want something bad enough, they'll find a way to get it, no matter whether they're locked down or not. They'll just go somewhere to buy it. And that will be online. Google it, eBay, whatever, find it. Now, here's the other thing. I'm seeing a real demand for local business in my community. People are knowing that people have been doing it tough. And like in my industry, for instance, people know that they're doing it tough. And I posted something on Facebook today, which was something that the CEO from Fitness Australia put out there, saying that our Victorian government is prioritising beer over people's exercise, health and fitness, because pubs, cafes, etc., serving alcohol, beer, are allowed to open, whereas gyms are not. So when you look at it in that context, it doesn't make any sense at all, does it? Especially when we've now got data from, I think it's 500 and, don't quote me, it's on my post, but I think it's either 546 gyms or 576, something like that, gyms, and I think it's about 6 to 7, oh, is it 5? I'll say 5 to 6 million visits with 0 cases. And our state government here has been talking about all the different industries that they've consulted with, over 150. Not one of them has contacted Fitness Australia, which is the leading health and fitness provider in the country, and they weren't consulted, and they know how badly health and fitness has been impacted. So it's interesting. It is certainly interesting. So you can do nothing, or you can create your own, your own economy. You can create your own choices, or you can do nothing. I'd rather take everything in my own control and say, okay, these are all the things that I can do. I can certainly control my mindset all the time. I can focus on those things that I think people are going to be wanting when this thing is over. I mean, I'm sure, for instance, once we're allowed to open again, I will be super, super busy, because people have put on weight, they've gotten unhealthy over the COVID lockdown, and they now want to do something about it. And now what also has happened is that fitness centres, trainers have gone out of business because it's just been too hard. So now, high demand, less people around. And yeah, is there the fact that people have gone out and bought a lot of home equipment, so now they've got a lot of equipment at home? Yeah, there is, but that hasn't changed. How many people in their time have bought treadmills and that kind of stuff, and have so many clients that they use them as clothes hangers? They don't actually get on them. So just because you've got the equipment, you need the coach to help you to be able to do this. So, that's something that is also a consideration. Okay, you've got your equipment at home. Let's put together a coaching program so that you can stay at home. I can coach you from home, use the equipment that you've got. I mean, it's just another opportunity there. So I think that we're going to live in a different place. I don't think it will be the same. It will take a number of years for it to perhaps even resemble what we're used to seeing as the same. And is that a bad thing? Well, I guess it depends what changes. I think there'll be changes in all areas. I think the important thing is that we make sure that we keep building our relationships, keep connecting there. And I'm sure things changed after World War I and II, and industries that were making certain things before the war were turned into making things during the war, which then, whether it be like, say, army uniforms and that kind of stuff, which then turned them to do business differently after the war. And like Coca-Cola is a great example of that. Coca-Cola, they were just based in the US, and a lot of the soldiers from the US, when they were asked about what were the couple of things that they wanted from back home, they said Coca-Cola and cigarettes. So what the government decided to do was put in these temporary like manufacturing plants over in different countries in Europe to manufacture Coca-Cola. And then after the war finished, the soldiers got hold of this and said, well, we might stay over here and we'll run these Coca-Cola factories. And then that was like their springboard into Europe. So really quite fascinating. And so there's opportunities out there if you want to take them. I think the key point is to create a strategy, make sure you act on the opportunities that are out there, and don't be immobilized. Don't be scared of the fact that there's going to be change and you don't know what it looks like. I think accept the fact that there will be change. You may not like it. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? How do you succeed? Keep moving forward from there. I think it's exciting. I'm certainly excited about within maybe the next week or so, because our numbers are tracking so well, we might open up a little bit earlier and I can start training some people back in the park again, and we can move more than 5 kilometres from our home. That's an exciting prospect after being shut down for so long and climbing the walls. So you've got to take those small wins when you can. So if you want to find out how you can work with me more closely, you can go to thementaltoughnessandbodyshow.com, scroll to the bottom, opt in for a free consultation, and I'd love to connect with you and have a conversation to see where are the synergies and how could we work together, or how can I help you get you from where you are to where you want to be. Stay safe wherever you are in the world. I'll see you tomorrow.